Howdy, 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 my name is Nacho Sasuke. Welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. In the last episode, we only really covered Dialysis Bracelet and Secluded Telephone due to the fact that I did some other stuff beforehand. And this episode, I'm going to be doing pretty much just entries. I don't know why I'm saying pretty much. I don't know what to expect so far. What I do know is that most of the rest of the 200 sound like they're terrifying. But for now, we're going to start with Inscribed Disc and go from there. Are you kidding me? This was one of the ones that didn't sound terrifying. Let me take a swig of water before I do the serious keter voice. SCP-271 is to be stored as long as possible in Containment Unit !12 in blank 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 on a meter-high stone pedestal, 271-1, which will be flooded with water and sealed off in a hollow 5 cm thick sphere composed of glass saturated with iron. Permanent neodymium blank magnets will be mounted around the standard size room to suspend the sphere in air and repel unwanted intruders. The room will be lined with pyrolytic carbon to contain the magnetic field generated by the magnets. The door to the room is to be left unguarded and disguised as an ordinary janitorial closet, and kept locked by an unobtrusive password box mounted in the wall down the hallway and around the corner that appears to be a thermostat. Dr. Vig is to change the password on a monthly basis. All studies to be observation only until further notice. In case of unauthorized access, electromagnetics in the room are to be activated by remote to destroy the glass sphere so that recovery may be simplified. SCP-271 is a small disc, composition unknown but metallic in nature, a little more than 4 cm in diameter and engraved with a number of symbols that may or may not represent an unknown alphabet. These symbols are infectious to their environment over time, gradually appearing as if visibly carved into nearby objects. They are capable of escaping through any hole, however minute, but have been demonstrated to be unable to penetrate non-gaseous fluids. Objects that carry the symbols for a sufficient time begin to be changed on a molecular level to the same material as the SCP. Both the engraving and petrification process are extremely painful to biotic organisms. The only known method for purging the symbols is the destruction of the object, and it is not possible to do this to 271 itself. At this time, both 271 and 271-01 are thoroughly coated with the engraved symbols and seem to swim slightly. Dr. Vug and other observers have described them as looking like the far side of a heat wave and not quite all there. The symbols appear to have fractalized somewhat. Studies with vision-enhancing equipment have revealed miniature symbols inside and around the larger carvings on both objects. 271 was a previously unknown SCP acquired from a shrine belonging to the Church of the Broken God by Mobile Armed Task Force 12 when data expunged. It was previously stored in a room of its own, which documents note was to be kept sealed until the assembly was ready. Documents acquired at the same time suggest that data expunged. The platform is original. On account of the extensive writing on the room in which it was contained, the shrine itself was pulverized. However, due to rapid retaliation by enemy forces, the remnants of MATF-12 were forced to data expunged. Contact has been re-established, but the nature of the SCP and the enemy seekers prevent easy recovery, and it is currently considered more advisable for the SCP to remain hidden if comparatively unprotected, than to attract attention by launching a very expensive recovery mission. MATF-12 has been ordered to conform itself into CU! 12! Exclamation mark, denoting their atypical existence outside of a secured SCP Foundation area. Addendum: 271 is not to be brought within the presence of SCP-882. Emergency Bulletin. Reports from other embedded sources indicate that as of blank blank blank, the Church is aware of CU-12 and the location of 271 and is planning an imminent assault against the unit. 271 is to be kept out of enemy hands at all costs. CU-12 has been ordered to mobilize and prepare for evacuation. A detailed team is being prepared for imminent deployment under the direction of Agent DuPont. A more detailed report is to follow. Okay. So it sounds like what this does is anything this is near for an extended period of time, the symbols start to appear on that thing, and then the thing turns into whatever that's made of. And in addition, there are smaller symbols in the symbols of the symbols on a fractal scale. And I guess the reason that it's a keter class is because just being near it will basically kill you painfully, so it can't really be contained because it does this to everything. Okay, so next up is an old iron nail, which is safe. But it also has a very long thing. Okay, because it's testing. SCP-272 is to be contained in a small wooden box in a vault at Sector 25. Apart from this, no further containment is necessary as the object is completely inert when not in use. Care is to be taken not to drop the item during transit. SCP-272 is an iron nail, approximately 11.5 centimeters long, resembling ancient designs. Covering every flat surface are engravings of unknown cultural origin. The engravings have been described as captivating but scary in a majority of staff interviewed. The nature of the object becomes apparent when it is dropped onto the shadow of an individual. The nail will bury itself exactly 2/3 of its length into the material the shadow is cast on. Following this, two effects should be noted. The person whom the shadow belongs to will not be able to remove the nail by any means, and they are limited to movements that keep the shadow cast on the nail. The nail, however, may be removed by conventional means by anyone else, although those requested to do so report a mild aversion, citing claims that it feels fair. The object was discovered during a routine sweep embedded into an exposed rock face near an abandoned Air Force base in blank Afghanistan, with a human skeleton scattered around it. It was thought to be mundane until researchers dropped it at their feet, and was subsequently pinned to the spot for 20 minutes before being assisted. Okay then. Let's see. One disposable dude, rock face at discovery site, midday sun. Established the nature of the SCP. Subject was handed the nail and told to hammer into a shadow at his feet. Subject complies. Once the nail had reached the 2/3 mark, subject could not continue. Subject continues to move. The subject attempts to move away but is unable to. They become fatigued and succumbs to heat stroke. Object removed. They are given medical treatment. Nature of object established. As above, nighttime. Established its effects at night. The subject was asked to move 10 meters away. The object embeds. The subject complies, showing no adverse effects. Subject then attempts to escape and is terminated. Object recovered. Subject is free to move when no shadow is cast. As above, lighting as above 2 hours before sunrise. Nail dropped, told to walk away straight line. Object embeds. Subject shows no adverse effects. Sunrise occurs at 6:06 local time. Subject is data expunged. 3 cleanup teams dispatched. Subject's torso recovered 106 meters from object, showing signs of road rash and severe blunt trauma. Object recovered. Testing moved to Sector 25. Conclusion, data expunged. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and take a guess at what happened here. They whoo, man. They pinned his shadow while it was nighttime. He walked away. When the sun came up, he slinkied back to where his shadow was and ripped apart. That's probably what happened to this person. They slinkied to death when sunrise happened. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had to pick up his torso and have road rash and all that. I don't know if slinkied is the right word. Elastic, maybe? The thing that comes to mind is Toy Story towards the end where they're using the rocket for the car. I'm just imagining that for some reason, but a better example would probably be when they were holding on to the Slinky Dog's paws, and when they let go and he just slammed backwards and obliterated Mr. Potato Head. I'm imagining that happened when the sun rose and he suddenly had a shadow again. Anyway, disposable dude, concrete floor of test facility 25. A standard 60-watt light bulb directly overhead. Established lighting requirements. Nail dropped, told to walk a straight line. Subject is free to move, object recovered. Insufficient lighting will cast no effect. A standard 1500-watt stadium light. They are trapped. Lighting requirements established. 2 stadium lights. Determine if multiple subjects can be held. Subject's positioned so their shadows overlap. Object dropped on the both shadows. Subject told to advance away from the nail. Disposable Dude 4 continues unhindered but reports feeling a chill. Disposable Dude 5 is held. Object cannot hold more than one subject. Potential secondary effect observed. 4 stadium lights and a ring around the subjects. Determine the selection mechanism for which object is held. Or which subject is held. Subjects positioned... Okay, there were like 8 of them. Nail dropped onto all 8 shadows. 9 is held. 18 years of age, Caucasian. All others free to move. Reports of a scream from all subjects except 9. All subjects except 9 seem to shiver. Object recovered. 9 removed from study. Experiment repeated. 6 held. All others appear to shiver, report a scream, but remain free. Experiment repeated 4 additional times as per the above method. Discontinued after 7 fell unconscious. Subject given treatment for severe hypothermia. Conclusion. Emerging patterns suggest that the youngest possible subject to be held will be. Additionally, secondary effect on larger groups observed. Further research pending acquisition of a larger sample group. Addendum. Subjects of equal gender distribution, ages range of 18 to 59, numerous physical traits represented. Okay. 1 disposable dude. Outside. In a grassy field. Early morning sun, 9 AM. The subject if they can escape by digging. Object dropped onto their shadow, then given a shuttle told to dig out the subject. Subject is for 90 seconds, then falls over screaming. Subject expires before medical intervention could be administered. Autopsy reveals they died of a cerebral hemorrhage, cause indeterminate. Object recovered, field repaired, repeated with 7 and 8, results identical. Conclusions? Subjects held by 272 cannot dig the nail out. Attempt to do so is invariably fatal. Okay, I didn't realize they were trying to dig the object out of the ground. I thought they were trying to, like, dig themselves away from it. But it sounds like if they try to dig at the thing that's in their shadow, they brain damage themselves to death. Fun stuff. Fun stuff. I probably don't really need to read more of these. It's interesting, and some of it's kind of funny in a really black comedy, morbid sort of way, but I'm gonna move on. Let's see. Human Phoenix. Yesterday when I saw that, I was thinking of, sphinxes, and was really confused. Still wait, before we continue, thinking of what phoenixes do. A human phoenix. Oh jeez. Okay, so SCP-273 is held in an enclosure 5 meters by 10 meters in size, half of which is closed off for the subject's privacy. All major structural and facing materials of the cell are to be fireproof and non-thermally conductive materials. A bedroll and other modest furnishings are allowed, provided they remain in the private section, and that all consumption of food be performed in the adjacent area. All windows from the observation room into the enclosure are composed of heat-treated glass of at least 1 centimeter total thickness, with an insulated gap in between. Heat and infrared sensors in both enclosure and observation are set to produce an alarm if any temperature exceeds 50 degrees Celsius. Observing staff are required to evacuate the room if in such an event. Food in the form of raw meat must be provided every 12 hours for consumption, at least 2.5 kilograms per feeding. Other foods may be provided at 273's request, provided good behavior continues. All clothing provided at 273 must be either flame-resistant in nature, or be of inexpensive make and fabrics. 273 is not to be interacted with in person if it has not consumed a meal of raw meat of at least 2.5 kilograms mass within the last 12 hours. In the incident of 273-2, alcoholic beverages in excess of 50% alcohol by volume must not be provided to 273, nor should any other flame accelerants be provided. All staff interacting with 273 must be armed with non-lethal defense measures. Lethal force should not be used. 273 resembles a middle-aged woman of Indian descent. DNA samples and medical tests indicate that she conforms to human normal in all other respects, despite the subject's abnormalities. 273 feels no need to eat or drink, but is perfectly capable of doing so. 273 has generally shown willing compliance and cooperation with the Foundation's containment and requests. 273 suffers from what it describes as a hunger, and which requires regular feeding every 12 hours. This hunger satiates itself through a form of remote combustion. This produces no visible flames, instead oxidizing the subject from the outside in until reduced to a fine white ash. Metals are not consumed except under special circumstances. See Incident Report 3. When tested, the hunger demonstrates a preference for meat over other organic matter, especially live human subjects. Yeah. 273 exhibits no signs of conscious control over its satiation and becomes upset upon consuming live animals. In response to testing with disposable dudes, 273 screamed at Abs data expunged into the corner of its private enclosure, refused to enter the front partition for 12 hours. It sounds like they were saying screaming at observers and collapsed into the corner of its private enclosures. Okay, so it seems like they had this woman eat a living human, and they were not okay with that, but had no control over it. In the event of 273's death, the body becomes the center of a large conflagration, marked by a central pillar of approximately 1 meter in width and extending far upwards. After the initial flames subside, all that remains of 273's body is a pile of white ash with a corona of faint blue flame. The flame is not extinguishable through oxygen deprivation and requires no fuel. Over the course of several hours, 273's body slowly reforms from the ash pile by consuming any source of raw material nearby, including the surrounding air. In this state, slow consumption of inorganic material has been observed. The new body resembles the old in all ways with no signs of injury or illness. When 273's body is completely reformed, it awakens with no memory of events after its recent death. Incident Report 1. The Foundation received reports of a thin pillar of flame exceeding 70 meters in height and resulting wildfires witnessed in the vicinity of blank. Due to the anomalous shape and duration of the flame, a small mobile task force was dispatched to the location. Bodies of 2 deceased Caucasians, 1 male and female, were found at the point of origin of the fires, the cause of death later determined to be severe third-degree burns. 273 was found shortly thereafter, unclothed and covered in white ash, standing over a deer carcass which radiated anomalous amounts of heat. Carcass crumbled to ash and coals at a touch. 273 was cooperative at this juncture and followed the task force out. 273 was then transported to Site Blank for evaluation and containment. Partial transcript of interview with 273. Interviewer Dr. Someone, forward. 273 had been obtained the day prior and introduced to the temporary holding cell in Site Blank. A video camera situated behind Dr. Blank provided visual records of the interview. You are saying then that I will be kept safe here, away from people? Yes, 273. Thank you, and by the way, my name is Blank. You may use that instead. Noted. What was the first thing you remember from when you were younger? I woke up surrounded by flames and covered in ash. It was the first time, I think. You remember nothing else from before that? How long ago was this? How old were you? Is it not proper to ask only one question at a time? Answer the questions, please. I don't. It was a very long time ago. Probably data expunged. And how old were you? 30 blank years. That much I remember. And I think I had made some great mistake. Perhaps that is why I am what I am now. And what are you now? A demon. Note, the preceding interview transcript omits 3 minutes and 7 seconds from the beginning and all parts after the last line for a reason. Level 3 clearance or higher is required for access to the original recordings. Know that 273 admitted in the former omitted fragment to involuntarily killing the 2 deceased subjects found near her point of extraction. She also identifies the victims as old friends. Staff members working with or observing 273 are to be reminded of this fact and of procedure for working with humanoid SCPs in general. Okay. I wonder why they omitted that, what the reason was. But it doesn't sound like we'll ever find out. Agents Blank and Blank entered the enclosure of 273 with intent to question regarding Blank. 273 had earlier been granted a bottle of Bacardi 151 for personal use by Agent Blank. It had been 12 hours and 37 minutes since the last scheduled feeding. Upon the agent's entry, 273 demanded they leave. When they did not at first, 273 became agitated, shouting at them and gesturing frantically. Less than 1 second after they secured the door, the bottle of Bacardi was observed to data expunged. Data expunged extreme damage to 273's enclosure and observation room due to flames of unprecedented strength. Recorded temperatures exceeded a lot degrees Celsius. That looks like thousands. Agent Blank's death will be handled as per normal procedure. Agent Blank is still in recovery as of this writing. 273's ashes have been contained in an airtight, fireproof safe. The damaged enclosures to be repaired for future use in containing other SCPs. Incident 3! The fireproof safe was found to be ineffective in containing 273. Severe corrosion damage to the interior and hinges of the safe led to breach of containment. Following the resumed revival of 273. 3 kilograms of raw pork was left in the room and the door secured. Upon awakening, 273 appeared disoriented, but consumed the offered meal as expected. 273 then requested to return to its normal containment. As said enclosure has since been repaired, this request will be carried out immediately. Addendum 3-2. The activity has changed drastically since the death event. It rarely leaves the private partition of its enclosure except to feed and refuses to speak. Surveillance using blank shows that 273 barely moves when on its own, either sleeping or sitting against one wall. It shows classic signs of depression despite having no prior indications of such a condition. Recommending close observation for any additional changes in behavior. Okay, so it sounds like that one time where they had Bacardi, which I believe is rum? Terrible things happened. I don't know if they were, like, drunk, or if it was just because they were about to combust and had been drinking Bacardi. But next up is Graffito, which sounds festive enough. Let's see what it is. Of course. Of course. Sorry for the water bottle sounds. Any buildings found to be infected with SCP-274 are to be reported immediately to a superior and the leader of Mobile Task Force Pi-1, City Slickers. Pi-1 is to incinerate cases of 274-1 and secure the infected buildings by forming a quarantine with a 1-kilometer radius under the guise of the local police and fire department. Pi-1 is to terminate any cases of 2 through the use of high-pressure fire hoses. Civilians insisting on entering an instance of 274-1 are to be detained and have 1 Class B amnesiac administered. Any apparatus used to contain or handle 274 should either be incinerated or entirely composed of metal or glass, and washed thoroughly immediately after use. The cover story for a containment breach of 274 should be a gang-related arson. SCP-274 is a paint of variable color. Buildings infected with 274 appear to have large amounts of graffiti covering the sides of the building and often have large disturbing designs to them, see Addendum 274. While its consistency is that of normal paint, its composition reveals it to be 28% hemoglobin, 12% gastric acid, and 60% common components consistent with Krylon brand spray paint. When SCP-274 is applied to a wall, it will begin to spread until it has covered the wall and any walls attached to it. 274 is unable to spread on metal, glass, or horizontal surfaces. While 274 spreads on buildings, it will convert the interior of the wall into a large mesoglia, the interior walls into a gastrodermis, and the exterior walls act as a protective shell and epidermis. Buildings coated entirely with 274 will become cases of 1. 1 exhibits signs of life, reacts to stimuli, and behave in a manner similar to many species of the Anthozoa class. Buildings converted into 1 lure passing civilians by emitting noises from inside. SCP-274-1. Sounds of glass breaking, loud coughing, or pained whimpers have all been reported from D-Class personnel. It is currently unknown whether 1 or the 2s are responsible for this behavior, as the noises stop immediately after entry. Typically, civilians will either call the police or investigate the noises themselves. As subjects search inside 1, they will be recognized as food by instances of 2, if any are present. When a victim enters a room inside 1, barring the entryway will immediately be suctioned into a gastrovascular cavity belonging to 1, later processing them into 274 in 1 instance of 2. Specimens of 2 are organisms composed of 274 that appear as men or women wearing a gas mask or respirator, along with a bright pastel-colored hoodie. 274-2 is able to support its heavy weight by its thickness and density in its membrane, which consists of 45 to 50% of the mass of 2. 2 act as nematocysts for 1, and can disguise themselves by merging into the walls. This is done by heavily compacting themselves and implanting itself into an interior wall, save for their mask, which flattens around the wall and disguises itself as standard graffiti. This behavior is proven to be a means of ambushing food for 1, and will only react when it detects something it considers a food source. 274-2 possesses a hinged operculum that ejects 274 located in their right hand. This operculum looks identical to a normal spray can, and can project 274 in a similar manner. 2 will attempt to spray 274 into the eyes and mouth of its victims in an attempt to incapacitate and encapsulate them. This method of attack has shown to be very painful and will blind and numb the victim from the neck down. Once tagged, the victim is placed in a gastrovascular cavity, resulting in a new SCP-274-2. 2 are able to duplicate themselves while in an instance of 1, and will produce 1 new SCP-274-2 every 24 hours. Once 12 2 specimens reside inside 1-1. Further cases of 2 will leave 1 and find a new building to spray with 274 while avoiding any people they encounter. Once a building at least 2 kilometers away from another 1 is found, 2 will spray 274 onto the building until it has completely dehydrated itself of 274 and dies, resulting in another instance of 1. If left unchecked, it is estimated that 274 could cover a large city within 20 days. And then there's an appearance log, but there's, well, it's not that many, but probably don't really need to look into that. But it looks like there was a mob of over 1,000 of 2 at one point. So, next up is Iron Skin, which is safe, which does not sound safe, but is. Subject is to be contained within 2 6x6 meter subterranean cells that is only accessible by a freestanding overhead elevator, although she is allowed short-term access to the communal facilities provided she behaves, and is accompanied by no fewer than 2 operatives all armed with gas grenades filled with an incapacitating agent. Personnel are not to assist 275 self-destructive behavior unless authorized by level 4 personnel. Such behaviors are either potentially harmful to bystanders or pointless. Subject has requested 1 prayer rug. Approved. 1 Quran. Approved. Halal food. Approved. To be allowed to perform a pilgrimage to Mecca. Denied. Daily portions of chili pepper of a minimum Scoville scale rating of 1 million. Approved contingent on good behavior. I don't know what that means. Regular haircuts. Approved. Hot coals. Denied. Flogged, stabbed, beaten, shot, electrocuted, fired. Denied, 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 denied. 275 is a woman who cannot be physically damaged by any means available to the Foundation. Subject is apparently of Middle Eastern origin and claims to have grown up somewhere in the Ottoman Empire, but to have been a homeless orphan with no memories before the age of approximately 10. Subject claims to be 168 years of age despite appearing to be in her mid-30s. Subject is 5'4" and weighs 419 pounds, despite having an appropriate and healthy sized figure. Hair and eyes are brown. She speaks most languages of the Middle East fluently and speaks English with a mild accent. 275 is perfectly normal in the fact that she needs to breathe, eat, and sleep. However, subject is almost completely resistant to physical trauma, various forms of radiation, and extreme temperatures. By 275's own recollection, her flesh has never experienced any damage and her skin has never been pierced or scratched. Testing indicates that the majority of 275's mass is composed of the elements common to all organic life. However, it is currently believed that many of the structural compounds have been replaced with significantly more durable substitutes, and the subject's tissues appear to contain significantly elevated amounts of various heavy metals. Foundation researchers have thus far been unable to collect tissue samples. Attempts have been made to X-ray the subject, but results were inconclusive. Subject's skin contains significant quantities of radio-opaque elements, repelling most attempts to penetrate it with a radiological or electromagnetic means. Diffractometry tests upon cell samples extracted from urine, feces, and menses indicate the presence of several novel polymers. However, the degree to which these polymers are represented in other tissues is speculative at best. This impenetrability of the subject extends through the entirety of the subject, including her hair and nails. Subject has claimed that her hair and nails have not been properly cut since she was 14, just before her condition manifested itself. In Foundation custody, her hair is to be cut weekly by exposure to a blank watt laser, and her fingernails and toenails are to be abraded with an angle grinder on a bi-weekly basis. In addition to this, due to her physical makeup and density, her biology has been slowed as well. Subject ages at least a fourth of the normal rate of aging. Also, her menstrual cycle is approximately 6 months long, with menses itself generally lasting 3 to 4 weeks. 275's mental state has been described by Dr. Glass as worrying. Because her anomalous condition prevents her from experiencing most forms of sensation, she indulges in self-destructive behavior in an effort to perceive tactile stimuli. I feel like, what's it called? The Resurrection A9 thing, the new mobile task force they're making. They should have got this lady. They should have gotten the indestructible lady who wants to be set on fire, and then set her into the really dangerous shit. But, I mean, for all I know they do, but they should have done that. Instead of fucking Abel. Okay? Time Shooter. Oh, it's a boat. SCP-276 is to be indefinitely moored at Site Blank's docks, with access given only to personnel with level 3 clearance or higher. Considering its unique qualities, no objects originating from an earlier or possibly later era than our own are to be taken on the 276 due to the potential loss of valuable materials. Regular maintenance is to be carried out after 276 has been made incapable of operation due to containment issues. 276 has a variable shape, size, and mass, but always appears to be a nautical vessel of... make and model relevant to whatever era it exists in. Currently, it takes the form of a large sailing schooner, 304.9 feet in length, and weighing 1,360 metric tons. Under normal conditions, it operates as a standard sailing vessel capable of achieving 16.2 knots in optimal conditions, regardless of its current manifestation. On its bridge near the wheel of the ship is a throttle labeled forward, back, and back again. Use of any of these functions will activate 276's ability to travel through time while taking anyone currently on the vessel as well. This ability is only limited by the requirement that the area in question possess some form of boat. Attempts to travel before the emergence of human life have failed, as well as trips into the far future. The throttle will act in relation to the current era, with the exception of back again, which will return 276 to modern time. It is unknown if operation of 276 can fundamentally alter history due to the retroactive nature of time. Any changes made would have already taken effect, and all current research into 276 is related to making sure that any possible manipulation of the timeline does not occur. Of note is the anti-anachronistic nature of 276. Beyond its tendency to change its form to respective era it resides in, all non-human subjects on 276 will alter as well to become time-appropriate. A flashlight taken back to the early 1700s will revert to a more primitive form of illumination, such as a gas lamp. Organic life is unaffected with the exception of creatures that either do not exist yet or have ceased to exist. In both cases, the animal will become another species from the closest taxonomic rank it shares. Dead persons brought to modern times are similarly affected, becoming an entirely different person. Genealogical testing reveals that the subjects are data expunged. Note, 276 is not, I repeat, not, to be used as a recreational device, especially involving exploitation of 276's temporal qualities, temporarily restricting access to level 4 personnel till further notice. Dr. Somebody. Addendum. As a blankety blank, the newly formed Mobile Task Force Row 5 Station Time is to be assigned to and given full security clearance involving the use of 276. After taking into consideration 276's ability to fix anachronisms and errors in time, all missions involving temporal tampering are to be headed by Row 5. Well, that's interesting. I may stop here, and the next one will be Chalkland, which reminds me of Chalk Zone. Because it might be in my best interest to have the episodes be closer to half an hour instead of 45 minutes. But when it gets to the point, once I pass, like, episode after next, I'll probably push to make it to 300 no matter how long that takes, unless I stop being able to breathe like these episodes usually make me do for some reason. But in any case, this has been Anachi Sasuke. This was episode 67 of Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki, and I will see y'all in the next one. If you liked it, a like and a subscribe would be groovy. If you didn't, you don't need to do either one of those things. Later!